So we're going to play a game of pretend, and we're going to pretend that the comic companies gave us free reign over whatever franchise or character we wanted. We could play around with any title. The only limit given to us is the limits of our imagination. Now that does raise the question, just what would we do? So sit back, relax, enjoy, and we're going to tell you.
Captain America throws his mighty shield. All those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. If he's led to a fight and a duel is due, then the red and the white and the blue will come through when Captain America throws his mighty shield.
The world goes to war. We recount the tale of Steve Rogers, the man who would become Captain America. Although young Rogers was too frail for combat, his fighting spirit wouldn't give up. He volunteered for a secret military experiment, and with the help of the country's finest scientists, was transformed into the world's first super soldier. Now he fights alongside the Allies as a symbol of freedom and liberty for all the world.
So obviously this week we're dealing with Captain America, the Sentinel of Liberty, and since all introductions and origins are out of the way, let's get this party started. So we are going to continue the notion that Captain America is a title to be handed down from hero to hero, not an identity of a distinct single person. And part of the backstory of what we're doing is that over the years there have been a number of different Captain Americas. We're just seeing the adventures of 3 of them. Some of the previous Captain Americas are in fact still alive, and some of them will show up from time to time in flashbacks or cameos.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
The 1940s Captain America is, of course, going to be Steve Rogers, and we're not going to change too much of Steve Rogers. We are going to take a lot from the modern day tellings and from the movies where he's a soldier and he's a piece of propaganda. So he's thrown into a lot of the worst of the battles of World War II. This is, of course, to not only win the battles, but to raise the morale of the soldiers and, of course, to be that piece of propaganda we mentioned. So Steve Rogers' Captain America is going to be a war book. However, he will be facing villains both classic, such as Baron Zemo, Arnim Zola, and of course the Red Skull. But along with the classic villains, we're going to include some of the more obscure villains, the ones that haven't been seen in years, such as Warrior Woman, Lady Lotus, and Electro. Yeah, Captain America had an Electro, go figure. Of course we're going to include Bucky Barnes, and this is the perfect time to put him in. He's still going to be the sidekick of Steve Rogers, but we're going to go the movie route and have him be a highly trained commando. While he's not a superhero, he will have the uniform that he wears, and he'll be more than capable in hand-to-hand combat with most villains, and of course all the Nazi mooks he'll be fighting. However, not liking the garish costume and finding out he's a little bit useless when fighting next to Captain America, he requests and receives a transfer to go fight with the Howling Commandos. Along with the Captain America book for this era, we'll be publishing The Invaders, as a separate title of course, telling war stories in which Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes team up with Union Jack, Spitfire, the original Human Torch, Toro, the Whizzer, Flaming Skull, and the Silver Scorpion to face threats that none of those original heroes can take on alone. In the 1950s, William Burnside has taken over the role of Captain America. Steve Rogers is dead, killed in action long before. America has reproduced the Project Rebirth using many different techniques, and William Burnside was the product. While his powers are similar to Steve Rogers, the chemicals affected him differently, so while he is faster and stronger than the original Captain America, his brain does not have the capacity for the tactics or the analytics that the original Captain America had, which adds a little bit of a layer to the story since the US government wants to use him for the newly formed CIA and NSA programs. So the stories in the 1950s are going to be more of spy thrillers than the war adventures that we had in the 1940s. And considering this new role that Captain America has to play, we're going to recruit villains like the Soviet super soldiers, and other communist supervillains like the Gremlin, the Red Ghost and his super apes, and he'll even have a run-in with a pre-heroic Black Widow. The accompanying book for the 1950s is going to be The Liberty Legion, which will tell Cold War stories that has William Burnside teaming up with Miss America, the Submariner, the Wizard, the Blonde Phantom, the original Angel, and an older Bucky to fight crime on a larger than individual basis.
Mobilize strike units 25th floor.
So in the modern day, the Captain America title is held by Shannon Carter. Now, as far as powers go, she's not as strong as her predecessors, more like an average bodybuilding male rather than anything superhuman. However, she's far more agile and does have increased reaction time and senses, so her fighting skills are on par with Steven Rogers. Now, she also uses more tech and gadgetry to assist her thanks to the advanced technology that we enjoy today, and this helps her get through whatever obstacles she may encounter. And because of the modern day setting, we'll deal with modern day issues and modern day problems. And because of the seriousness of the situations that she would be in as far as political and societal, we've decided to give her the more goofy of Captain America's villains. Viper, or Madam Hydra, who really shouldn't be any kind of challenge to Steve Rogers, would make an excellent villain for the modern day Captain America. The Serpent Society is always fun, and it's cool to see Captain America go up against them. And Batroc the Leaper is France's failed attempt at the super soldier serum, who went rogue and is now one of the world's foremost terrorists. And this version of Captain America's sister book will be The Avengers, which she cannot be the leader of because she and the government knows that sometimes she will be pulled away to do their business. And that sometimes will cause the Avengers conflict, but hey, comic books are conflict. That's just what we get with them.
I just want you to know, Cap, it's impersonal!
The American dream is very simple. It's where man rules themselves, where we should govern our lives with very little government intervention. And the fact that Captain America was created by and is employed by the government, well, it's going to be an important plot point that in all three cases, Captain America is dedicated to the idea of America, the great experiment, and what it means to be an American, and thus in some cases they are going to come into conflict with the government itself. That said, they are products of their time. See, while Steve Rogers is a New Deal Democrat and thus dedicated to the ideals of the time, a fair shake for everyone, stand up to bully, so on and so forth, yada yada, he's still a white man in the 40s and thus will follow a certain old-fashioned morality which might actually be immoral in some of our eyes and our more modern day sensibilities. William Burnside is going to be an Eisenhower Republican, a rah-rah American. He believes in freedom and liberty, yet is a little distrustful of the youth of the day and tends to see, because of his villains, any anti-government sentiment as communist sympathies. And lastly, Shannon Carter is going to be a balancing act of knowing that sometimes you have to step on people's freedoms to protect those freedoms, and not wanting to step on the freedoms at all. She's also not going to be afraid to refuse when the federal government asks her to do something that is blatantly wrong.
It kind of feels personal.
The one constant throughout all iterations of Captain America is the Falcon. And now you might say, wait a second, how would he do that? How would he go from being from the 40s to the 2017s? Quite easy, ladies and gentlemen. Isaiah Bradley was part of the Tuskegee experiment that worked on the super soldier serum before it was prepared and ready for Steven Rogers. He was the last person to be tested on, and it gave him super strength, enhanced speed and durability, as well as prolonged life. Unfortunately, it also blinded him. Now with the use of a special visor that lets him have a sonar radar sense, and a jetpack that's been upgraded over the years, he has been a partner and sometimes mentor to every iteration of Captain America. These days he's taken Shannon Carter under his wing, teaching her about the legacy that she has accepted by putting on the uniform of Captain America.
Avenger, that is an order! I said stand down, soldier!
So there you go, kids. Those are our ideas of what we would do if Marvel gave us control of the franchise. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, you want to see more, please click like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Also, if you don't mind helping us out a little bit so we could keep doing this, go on over to our Patreon page. It's I Love Comics, or our VidMe page, I Love Comics Again, and leave us a little tip. It's much appreciated, and thank you very, very, very much for watching.